What's going on, you guys? Back with another video. In this video, I want to talk about victims of emotional incest. And I want to weigh in more on narc mothers and their sons. Now, the emotional incest that I will be speaking on has a lot to do with the relationship between a narcissistic mother or a mother with like very strong narcissistic traits and her son. It normally starts off when a mother relies on her son, whether from childhood, teenage years, well into adulthood. And she does that to please herself in a way to where she really should expect that type of commitment and support from her own spouse, a partner. And I'm not saying like she relies on her son, in an inappropriate way, like in a sexual way, but in a very mentally unstable way. But a lot of times with narcissistic mothers, they can't keep a man around. So that kind of runs off the spouse to, it pushes them in a different direction. It causes the split up in a relationship or a separation in marriage or causes breakups. And a man doesn't want to be bothered with a woman because of her very toxic and narcissistic ways. And so now this mother is left alone to raise her children, sons or daughters, or her son. And again, I'm putting more emphasis on a narc mother and her son. So now she uses her narc traits to abuse her children. When she uses her traits to abuse her son, is when you'll start to see them to grow up and never really know their own true identity. You know, children, they come up looking up to their parents. And so they're going to pretty much go by whatever they were taught as a child. Whatever you put inside of their mind to believe, they're going to go by that because they trust you. They put their love and trust in you because it comes from a maternal place. And it's sad that you have some very unstable households to where the head of the family is really destroying the family dynamic, through their own personality disorders. And they grow up in a household with a narc mother who pretty much grooms them, onto an unhealthy parent child environment. And love was barely expressed, you know, and it just show how much the child gonna grow up doing for themselves. They pretty much gonna grow up doing the same thing they were kind of taught to do as a child. And that causes a male to constantly seek approval, you know, which even with love, they're seeking approval from their mothers to love them because the mother has taught them and pushed them that you got to be your best, but your best, it's not going to be good enough if I don't approve of it. And it could be their very best. I mean, we're talking about a child. What do you expect out of a child when you have to teach them along the way? They don't know any better, and then it just goes to show that this causes the male to constantly seek approval. And, instead of being given love and support and, just to applaud their efforts, doing the best that they can in school, even on a playground, just at anything. Instead, they constantly criticize them and complain on how they can do better. And they take things out on them when it's kind of unpleasing to her. Sometimes that can become violent or abusive behavior, you know. But I just want to kind of give a quick rundown of some of the narc traits that you will see in a mother and how it weighs down on her son. You will see like a mother who is very self centered, entitled, of course. They can't handle criticism. They become very vindictive when they can't have their way with you or a certain situation. They use the silent treatment as punishment. They criticize. You're never good enough. They even become very rude at some point. They show no emotional bond. If anything, they, it's more of an emotional neglect on their part to their sons. They fake being overly protective over their sons, expressing concern that maybe certain people aren't good enough for you, son, so you should leave them alone. And it's only because they're jealous of the relationship that their son has with other people or something like that. And another thing I want to mention real quick, just to kind of point out something else. A lot of times when the narc mother neglects the son, they'll even go as far as giving them away to another family as a way to show them that, well, since you're showing more love and happiness towards those people, how about you just go stay with them for good? And you're talking about a mother doing this to her child. That comes from a place of neglect within herself, because you have to look at her upbringing as well and what she had to go through as far as emotional neglect, a lack of love from her own parents or mother or father. And so that is how she expresses her fear of losing her son. It's like narcissists, they don't look at people, as someone to love and respect. They look at you as an object. So, of course, mothers are going to look at their children as objects, as I own you. You belong to me. Once I feel like I'm losing attention from you that I should get, like you're not showing me that same attention that you're giving someone else, they can easily just give you away, you know. And so that's just something I want to point out real quick. But they do fake being overly protective. It's a very unhealthy um, protection over their sons, and it hurts them in the long run. The narc mother is also antisocial. They teach their children not to associate with certain groups of people. Like they want to put themselves above everyone. Image is very important to them. You know, um, when it comes to competition, they're very competitive. They put themselves against people who are not even thinking about competing against them. A lot of that comes from jealousy. With narc mothers, it's either they teach their children you either win or you bow out. You just walk away, you know, because there is no losing with us. We don't lose, we just win, or we give up. But just because we gave up doesn't mean we're lost. That just means that we were cheated out of a win, because they want you to feel entitled to such. And that makes them become sore losers, you know. And then, in another sense, when they don't get the win that they want the way they wanted it, it um, puts them in a certain spotlight. They'll even tear their sons down, belittle them, make them feel like, you know, just make them feel bad for not creating an image for them that makes them look like a good mother. And Also, they don't hold their sons accountable for their bad behavior. Sometimes they just let things blow over or they sweep it under the rug, you know. And the bad behavior that the sons display, the mother contribute to that. But if the male son makes, if the male makes the mother looks bad, then she'll take it out on him in a very abusive way, mentally abusive, even verbally abusive as well, calling him names, just making him feel real bad about himself. When he looks in a mirror, he begins to hate himself or doubt himself or start to uh, become competitive against other people, want to be what they see, but not really wanting to do that for themselves, just feeling the need to do that to please mom, so their mom will accept me for who I am. And it's sad, you know. And another thing is they can't confine in mom for fear of criticism, where they need that emotional love and support. Anything, and the mom is going to show fault, you know, for the child being looked at a certain way. It's your fault. You came up short. In a baseball game, they don't motivate their sons or good job, it's a good try. You're going to get it the next time. They don't pep talk their sons to make them feel like you got this. The child is afraid of losing because of the fear of being neglected and torn down by mom. And that's a lot of how mothers and their relationship with their sons are. It always results in emotional neglect, emotional and verbal abuse, and sometimes physical abuse as well. They may throw things at their sons, and just tear them down to the point to where they really start to believe that about themselves. They're even at fault for their own feelings. They make you feel like it's your fault you feel that way, because if you would have just been this way or been that way, but they never really taught them to be that way. They just automatically expect them to portray a certain image to make them look good. They need their sons to be a reflection of them, even though they're not grooming them up that way. They didn't bring them up in a very healthy environment. They brought them up in a environment to where it it's long as you make me feel good, then you're accepted. And if not, then they're gonna feel that emotional neglect. But I'm gonna get more into a series of Narc mothers and their sons. So y'all stay tuned and I'll be back with another video.